Imagine, if you will, the beating heart of an empire. Its legions, the very embodiment of its power and reach, spread across a vast, formidable dominion. Yet, amidst this meticulously documented military machine, a chilling anomaly persists: the complete disappearance of an entire legion. Not a gradual decline. Not a strategic retreat. But a sudden, inexplicable silence. This is the enduring enigma of the Legio IX Hispana, Rome's Ninth Legion, a unit forged in conquest, seemingly swallowed by history itself. For decades, the Ninth Legion was a fixture on the Roman frontier. Specifically, they were stationed in Britannia, that volatile, untamed province at the very edge of the known world. Their role was critical, maintaining order, suppressing rebellions, expanding Rome's control against fierce native tribes. From the invasion of Claudius in 43 AD, the Ninth was there, a hardened cohort of experienced soldiers. Their presence was a constant declaration of Roman authority, a formidable force against the Celtic wildness. The last confirmed, unambiguous record of the Ninth Legion in Britain dates to 108 AD. An inscription from York. After this point, the historical record becomes thin, ethereal. No clear deployments, no triumphant dispatches, no casualties lists. This absence, this void in the meticulously kept annals of Roman military administration, is precisely what fuels the mystery. Other legions are accounted for, their movements traced across the empire. But the Ninth? They simply cease to exist in Britannia's narrative after that pivotal year. A curious lacuna. The prevailing theories regarding the Ninth's fate largely diverge into two distinct paths, each with its own set of tantalizing, yet incomplete, clues. Path 1, a dramatic, catastrophic annihilation within Britain itself, likely at the hands of fierce indigenous tribes in the hostile northern territories. Path 2, a strategic relocation from Britain to another volatile frontier of the vast Roman Empire, followed by a less documented, perhaps more gradual, dissolution or destruction elsewhere. Both scenarios present compelling arguments, both leave crucial questions unanswered. Consider the theory of destruction on British soil. The northern reaches of Britannia were notoriously perilous. Caledonian tribes, fierce and unyielding, posed a constant threat beyond the nascent Roman fortifications. A full legion, perhaps 6,000 men strong, venturing too far into hostile territory, could have been ambushed, overwhelmed. The climate, the terrain, the sheer ferocity of an enemy defending its homeland all could conspire against the disciplined Roman war machine. A perfect storm, capable of erasing a legion from existence without a clear, surviving witness. Adding another layer to the British destruction theory is Hadrian's Wall. Construction began in 122 AD, just over a decade after the Ninth's last known presence. This colossal defensive barrier, stretching from coast to coast, was a profound strategic shift. Its very existence implies a recognition of a persistent, formidable threat from the north. Did the Ninth's disappearance, perhaps a catastrophic defeat, serve as the ultimate catalyst for such a massive, permanent fortification? A stark, silent testament to a devastating loss that compelled Rome to redraw its northernmost boundary? Conversely, the narrative of relocation suggests a more administrative, albeit still ultimately tragic, end. Rome's empire was vast, its frontiers constantly shifting. Legions were frequently moved to address new threats, from the Parthian Empire in the east to Germanic tribes along the Rhine. Could the Ninth have been simply redeployed, stripped from Britain's records, and sent to face a different, perhaps even more formidable, enemy? Such a transfer would make its disappearance from British records logical, shifting the mystery of its ultimate fate to another distant theater. When we analyze Roman military records, consistency is typically the rule. The absence of Legio IX Hispana, especially after 108 AD, stands out against the detailed accounting of other legions. Consider this: other legions stationed in Britain, like Legio VI Victrix and Legio II Augusta, are consistently traceable throughout their service. Their movements, their commanders, their disbandment or relocation, are generally well documented. The Ninth represents an anomaly, a statistical outlier in an otherwise comprehensive imperial ledger. This lack of data, itself, is data. However, the plot thickens with later archaeological discoveries. Inscriptions, meticulously carved into stone, offer a potential counter-narrative. One significant finding is a tile stamp from Nijmegen, in modern-day Netherlands, dated to around 120 AD. It bears the mark of a vexillatio, a detachment, of Legio IX Hispana. A small piece of a much larger puzzle, perhaps. But if a part of the legion was in Germania Inferior a decade after its disappearance from Britain, what does that imply about the whole? A fragmented survival? Or simply a unit already transferred? Further east, another tantalizing clue emerged. An inscription from Fayum, Egypt, records a veteran of the Legio IX Hispana serving in a cavalry unit, dated to the reign of Hadrian. This is significantly later, pushing the possible existence of at least some remnants of the 9th well into the mid-2nd century. This veteran, if genuinely from the 9 Hispana, suggests the legion, or at least its personnel, continued to exist in some capacity. But was this individual merely a survivor, transferred to a new unit, or does it point to the legion's continued, albeit clandestine, existence in the East? Consider the immense logistical challenge of moving an entire legion, approximately 5,500 highly trained soldiers, plus support staff and equipment, across the vast Roman Empire. From Britain to the Rhine, or even further east to Syria or Judea, would involve weeks, if not months, of arduous travel. Marches of 20 to 25 miles a day were common. Yet, such transfers were standard procedure for the Roman military. The sheer scale, while impressive, doesn't negate the possibility of a move, it merely highlights the emperor's authority and the sophisticated infrastructure enabling such large-scale redeployments. The decision to move or disband a legion ultimately rested with the emperor. Trajan, in power during the critical period of the Ninth's disappearance, was a highly active military commander, extending the empire to its greatest territorial extent. He orchestrated massive campaigns, notably in Dacia and against the Parthians. It is entirely conceivable that a legion deemed necessary for a more pressing conflict in a different theater would be unceremoniously pulled from Britain, its records in the periphery perhaps less rigorously updated. An emperor's prerogative. A silent command. Another layer of possibility: what if the Ninth was never truly destroyed in a single, cataclysmic event, but rather slowly disbanded, its vexillations reassigned, its veteran soldiers integrated into other units? Such an administrative dissolution would explain the lack of a definitive death certificate for the legion. Over time, its distinct identity would simply fade, its personnel absorbed. This process, while less dramatic, might leave fewer archaeological traces of a singular military disaster, and more fragmented evidence of its surviving elements distributed across the Roman world. For centuries, the tale of the Ninth's destruction in Britain was almost dogma, fueled by romanticized notions of valiant Roman resistance against barbaric hordes. Popular culture often cemented this image. However, modern scholarship, with its access to broader archaeological data and a more critical eye on ancient texts, has begun to challenge this long-held belief. The tide of academic opinion is shifting, moving away from a single, dramatic obliteration towards a more nuanced understanding. The evidence, though sparse, points elsewhere. To better understand the Ninth's vanishing act, let's compare Roman record-keeping across different imperial periods. During the early Principate, records were often robust, especially for legions. By the 2nd century, while still extensive, the empire's vastness and constant frontier shifts could lead to gaps or delays. The fate of other legions that were eventually disbanded, like Legio XXII Dioteriana, often involved clearer, though sometimes still somewhat ambiguous, documentation of their end, usually in specific battles or by imperial decree. The Ninth's absence stands out, even when compared to other lost legions. The most compelling, albeit fragmented, evidence now points to the Ninth's eventual fate occurring not in the cold wilds of Britain, but in the heat of Rome's eastern campaigns. The Nijmegen tile, the Fayum veteran, and other scattered inscriptions suggest the legion, or at least substantial parts of it, were transferred east, likely to participate in Trajan's massive Parthian war. It is there, in the complex, brutal campaigns against a powerful Eastern rival, that the Ninth likely met its end, perhaps not in one single, dramatic battle, but through attrition, skirmishes, or eventual disbandment after heavy losses. A quiet, undocumented dissolution far from Britain's shores. So, where did the Ninth Legion truly go? The consensus among most contemporary historians and archaeologists now leans heavily towards an Eastern demise. While the romantic notion of a British obliteration persists in popular culture, the evidence, however sparse, suggests a redeployment. They likely saw service during Trajan's Dacian Wars, then critically, during the ambitious, costly Parthian campaigns, 113 to 117 AD. The legion was probably shattered, not in a single, climactic defeat, but through the grinding attrition of a brutal war, leading to its eventual and quiet disbandment under Hadrian, without formal record of its destruction. The mystery, however, endures. Because Rome, for all its meticulous record-keeping, never officially announced the Ninth's destruction or disbandment in the East. No triumphal arch commemorating a final stand. No public decree mourning its loss. Just a gradual fading from the historical record, a silent administrative disappearance. Perhaps it was too ignominious a defeat to acknowledge. Perhaps a deliberate erasure. The exact circumstances of its end remain speculative, a testament to the vastness of an empire and the inherent gaps in even the most comprehensive historical documentation. The Ninth Legion still whispers from the shadows of history.